Hello, this is a basic understanding or a walkthrough of some basic and fundamental Linux commands. And while I go through some basic Linux commands, I'll also be covering some basic Linux concepts as well. So let's begin. First, I'll start with a very basic command, ls. ls is to list the contents of the directory. And you don't have to like by heart every Linux commands or every Linux flags or arguments. You can actually understand what a command is by using this command like man. It's a manual. It stands for manual. Man, the command that you want to know about, man ls would give the explanation about what that command is and what sort of arguments and flags you can use with those commands. So ls is to list directory contents, and these are the flags that you can use with that. So ls is to list the contents of the directory. Then let me begin by creating some files. So the command for creating a file is touch first.txt. First.txt is a file. So if I do ls again, the first.txt is created. Now, how do I write contents into the file? So currently the file is empty. So I can use the VI editor for that. VI, it's a popular editor for file editor. So I can type in VI first.txt and then write something. This is Linux learning. And yep. So how do I display the contents of files? For that, I can type in the command cat. So cat first.txt displays the contents of the file. This is Linux learning, the one that we updated now. So there is also another way to write contents into a file. So that is echo, by using echo. So for example, if I use echo, this is a sampled file and I write it to sample.txt and a cat sample.txt. This is a sample file. So that is another way of writing contents into a file. So using VI and echo. So yes, so now the root directory has sample.txt, first.txt. So let me also create some directories. So to create directories, I can use mkdir, first directory. So by ls, I can see that first directory is also created. Okay, so let's go through some of the ls command itself, like ls slash. So um, ls. So basically, in Linux, there is a main directory called the root directory, and root is considered as the top level directory of the file system, and it is represented by a slash. And all these directories that comes under root is its standard subdirectories, which includes like bin. Bin for stores like user binaries. Then we have variable stores user variable files, temp stores temporary files. Home is a uh, used for storing user files. So if I create a different user, it automatically creates a directory for that user inside the home file. Then what else? etc is also like a subdirectory that stores system configuration. So these are like some of the important subdirectories inside the Linux file system. Then I can use lsl to display the permissions and furthermore information on of that files and directories in the current directory. So this is LSL. So what these lines mean? I mean, it doesn't, it looks complicated, but it is not actually that complicated as it looks to be. So for example, let's take first.txt, the example of first.txt, the text file that I just created. So the first hyphen here, it represents a file. The hyphen represents a file. For example, the first director is a directory and it is represented as D, which says it's a directory. So if it's a hyphen or a blank space, blank, that means that it's a file. Then R, R stands for read. Read means it's a permission that allows the user to read the file. W stands for write. It's a permission that allows user to write files, that is update, delete, or create files. And X is a permission, execute permission. It is a permission to cd into that file, change directory into that file or directory. So these are the three main three permissions in Linux. Okay. So here, this particular collection of alphabets, like the read, write, and the blank space, it represents the owner. The first three represents the owner or the user. The next three represents group, and the next three represents others. So owner permission is basically, I mean, owner is someone who owns the file. The person who created the file becomes the owner of the file, and I mean, the owner are also known as roots. And the group is a group or a collection of users. So if a group has certain permissions, that means the users of that group will also have those permissions. So that is represented by this block. And the next is others. Others are users who are either owners or either part of the group. Okay. So let's say if I want to like change the permission of the file dot first, I want to change the permission. So that is when I can use the command chmod, change mode. If I type in 777 first.txt, first.txt. So now let's see what the permission of my file is. ls-n, give the file name first.txt. So what was before this became this. So what does that mean? The first hyphen indicates that it's a file. 7. 7 indicates read, write, and execute. So the owner now has a read, write, execute permission. So 7 is simply 4 plus 2 plus 1. And 4 represents read, 2 represents write, and 1 represents execute. So 4 plus 2 plus 1 is 7. So that means it has read, write, and execute permission. So what would be 777? That would mean the owner has read, write, execute permission. The group has read, write, execute permission, and others have read, write, execute permission. And so that's what happened here. Okay, so let's try to change the permission of sample.txt. Okay, sample.txt. For example, chmod 746 sample.txt. Okay, ls-l sample.txt. Okay, so sample.txt, what was before read and write for user, now is read and write and execute, because 7. 7 is 4 plus 2 plus 1, read, write, execute. 4 is 4 plus nothing plus nothing, so that is read only. So what was, okay, it was earlier read itself, and now it's read. Read. Nothing changed there. And 6. 6 is 4 plus 2 plus 0. That is read plus write plus nothing. So that means read plus write plus nothing for others. So that is how you can change the permissions. So chmod has two forms, like user mode. Numeric mode and symbolic mode. So numeric mode is the one that I showed here. This is the numeric mode. Symbolic mode is more easy. Like if I want to change the permission, for example, I don't want to give execute permission, or I don't want to give write permission for the owner. What would I do? I'll type in chmod. Owner is user. User, a minus sign indicate I'm removing that permission. So minus what? Write permission. That's it. Simple as that. Sample.txt. And if I try to list it again, write permission has gone. Write permission is gone for user. Sample.txt file. So that's how you can manipulate around, permissions of Linux files. And other thing about ls-l is that these are the one that you see here, the numbers that you see here. These are the link counts. So link counts means how many directories and subdirectories is it part of. Like for example, if you take the test directory, it was already there in this terminal, already created test directory. Test directory itself is a directory, and it would have a subdirectory, or it would have, it would be part of a main directory. Let me go to cd into this test directory. Let me see into the set test directory and ls. Okay, test directory has two files. It doesn't have any extra directory. So test directory is a directory on its own, and it has a root directory, right? So that is why the two. So there are two links here. So what about test dir? This one would have like three links. That it would have a root directory. Test directory is a directory on its own, and it would have a inside. It would have a directory. For example, uh, cd. By the way, cd is used to change the directory. So if I cd into test dir and ls, there is inside a test directory too, right? So that means it has three links. It has a root directory, test directory on its own, and another directory inside the test directory, a subdirectory. So that is three links. So that is what these numbers represent. Then the root here is the user, and this is the group that it's part of. And this is the 124.4096. This is a size in bytes. Okay. And this one, this is the last modified timestamp. And this one is the actual file name. So first.txt is a file name, first.py is a directory name, and so on. So that is some overview about ls-l command. Let me clear this terminal. Okay. So now that ls is done, what would be next? Okay. So how do I know that what sort of user I am? So what sort of user I am? Like that is why we have this command, who am I? So who am I says the current user. So I am root user. And what about the current directory that I'm in? So pwd, that is print working directory. That is, I am in the root folder. Okay. So what if I want to create a new user? How do I create a new user? So to create a user, you can type in the command add user. So add user, we're gonna, it's a new username and it's asking me for a password. So I set a password for that. And some, so basically it added a new user. So how do I log into that user? So for that, you use the command su. Su is switch user, Meghana. And now I'm logged in as Meghana. So how can I verify that? I can type in the command who am I again. So instead of root, now I'm Meghana, logged in as Meghana. And what about the PWD, the present working directory, the print working directory, root? Okay. So if I try to, let's try to do something like ls in the root. Okay, cannot open directory, permission denied. So why is permission denied for me in the root? Because only root users can access the root directory. Okay, so if in such cases, what can we do is we can run a command called sudo. So sudo is a command super user do. So it gives normal user temporary uh, permissions to run command as root. So let's see sudo ls. Sudo ls, and it's asking me for my password. So let me give my password. Megan is not at the sudo was 5. So this means that only users who are registered or part of a sudo configuration can run this admin commands. Okay, so for that I need to add myself into the sudo file. So let me exit from this right now, and to add that there is a command sudo usermod ag adding to the group sudo Meghna. So basically it's adding my user to a sudo file. Okay, sudo spelling is wrong, sudo Meghna. Okay, let me try switching to my user and try listing. Okay, now I'm able to list the contents of the root. So it's temporarily treating me like a root, and I'm able to list the contents in the root using sudo. So that's how it's done. So, okay. Uh, let's talk about CP command and move command. So how do I copy the contents of one file into another? Let's say, okay, sudo ls cat sudo cat first.txt. This is Linux learning. So how do I copy this? I use the command cp, sudo cp, copy command, cp first.txt to, let's create a new file, first demo.txt, and cat into sudo cat first demo.txt. This is Linux learn. So whatever the contents of this file is now copied into this file. Okay, so I don't want the first demo.txt, so I'll remove it. So to remove a file, you can just type rm, remove first demo.txt, sudo, sudo. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, now I'm in root. So there is a directory called home, a subdirectory called home. And inside the home, there will be a default folder that will be created for the user. So let me try cding into that home directory. Home, let me try ls. Yeah, a directory for my user is already created inside that. Let me cd into Meghna and ls. There's nothing there. So inside my user directory, I wouldn't need sudo permissions. So I can just run as user there. So let me try to um, let me see what permissions. Sudo ls. Okay. So LSL, what does it say? The user that is the owner will have read write execute permission. So that means I'll have read write execute permission. So it says Meghna is a user here. So the user will have read write execute permission. So that's why I don't need to, uh, go as a root or I type in sudo or anything. So just wanted to show that. Okay. So let me try now to move some files from root to my folder. So in order to move files, I have to write sudo. Why I'm writing sudo here is I'm moving some file from root to my folder. So I'll have to type in sudo. So root first.txt to the current directory. And if I type ls, first.txt is here. Cat first.txt. This is Linux learning. Okay, let me create another file, touch demo.txt. Go. DevOps. Now demo.txt. Okay. So now I've created like two files inside here. So I've moved the file from root to my folder and I've created one separate file. Okay. So next command would be set command. So set command is used to replace certain words. So how we can write set command is followed by a single quote, and inside the single quote you have to type in S, that S stands for search. Then since I said it is for replacing, so you have to specify the word that you want to replace. So for example, if I want to, for example, cat first dot demo.txt. If I want to replace DevOps with cloud, let's say, I can type in sed slash s slash DevOps slash cloud. So that means search for the word DevOps and replace it with cloud in the file demo.txt, followed by the file name. So cloud is kind of, so it replaces the word DevOps with cloud. So that is regarding set command. Okay. Then the other commands would be awk command. Awk command is also something like a text processing command. It is also used for like pattern matching, search for words and patterns. It is also like followed by a single quote and curly braces. I'll show you. It is a scripting language on its own. So, for example, let's say awk. Okay, I want to, in this particular file, DevOps is kind of cool. So, demo.txt. I want to print the first word from this file. First word is considered as column one. So how do I do that? How do I do that? I type in awk followed by single quote, curly braces, and I specify what sort of activity that I want to do. I want to print the first column. So printing the first column is $1 from which file? Demo.txt, DevOps. So that's how we can do it. That's how we can use the awk command. Another real world use case would be, for example, if you are asked to get the IP addresses from some logs, a log file, or get columns from logs file, timestamps from logs file, how would you do it with awk? For example, in the variable subfolder, there is a auth.log file. So how do I take it? Sudo cat variable log auth.log file. See, this is just like a sample log file. So if somebody asks, or if you want to like retrieve the first like timestamps of all these log entries, how would you do that with awk? It's similar to this command, very similar to that command. So you would just type in awk single quotes, curly braces, print $1. Okay, I have to use sudo because since var is under root, yeah. So this just displays the column one, that is all the timestamps from this file. So that is one use case of awk. In real world scenarios, you would see such use cases for awk. Another command would be grep. Grep is a global regular expression print, and it is also like word pattern matching. So it displays a sentence with which matches that word. For example, if I type in DevOps, grep DevOps from demo.txt, okay, DevOps demo.txt. Okay, so hyphen I ignores cases. So it just displayed the sentence which had like DevOps. So that is how you can use grep command. So it is just for searching patterns in a text. How can you use it with pipes? Uh, Pipe is simply like it's a tool that takes output of one command and give input to the other. So you would understand by this, like for example, psaux. Psaux is something that shows all the running processes in your system. So if you can type like pipe and grep, uh, for example, if you want SSH. So this kind of like displays all the lines or the processes that has SSH in it, that contains the word SSH. So that is also kind of like a real world use case of grep command and how you can use grep commands. That is about grep. And another very basic command is top command. So top command displays all the system processes, the resource utilization, and it's kind of like a uh, tool to diagnose system health for troubleshooting and diagnosis. So you can get some information from here, like the percentage CPU used 94.6 idle. It says 94.6 CPUs idle, and 99.0% CPU is idle, and the rest is only utilized. That is what it mean by that. And there are some things like load average uh, and other things. So I'll make another video explaining top. So it's just like it's basically for like diagnosing system health and troubleshooting and all that. So that is top command. Then ifconfig. Ifconfig, it is to view network interface parameters. Then curl command. Curl command is also a very useful command, like DevOps scenarios. If you want to like reproduce some issues in your local system, if you want to check the connectivity of a particular application or any endpoints, you could use curl command for that. So for example, if I take curl http example.com, it displays something. It says this domain is for the use in documentation example without needing permission. So it says that this indicates that it is reaching that application, you know, or you can just type in curl hyphen I http example.com. So that kind of displays the 200 status code also. Status code, 200 status code means yes, you are able to reach that endpoint. So this is how you can, replicate issues in your local environment and, check connectivity. So curl is also a very, very useful command. That is about curl. Then something like nslookup. nslookup is to look up the IP addresses of certain domain names. For example, google.com, nslookup google.com. So it displays the IP addresses of the domain in google.com. So nslookup facebook.com, something like that you could use. It just displays the IP addresses. Then finally, it will be ping. Ping command. Ping command is to check if the other system is reachable over the internet and uses like ICMP protocol. So let me try pinging google.com. Google.com. Yeah. So it is able to send bytes, and yeah, I'm able to make connection. The system, the endpoint is reachable. So that is ping command. Yeah. So these are like some of the very basic uh, Linux commands and some Linux functionalities. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.